Okay, let's talk about the issue with the 1G pads in the 0G environment, which I think caused the 311 R patch, which forced couple mode on decoupled ships if the gear's out. Okay, so okay, let's assume your ship is over here, and you want to fly over here, in this direction, and the landing pad is over here. And this is where the gravity of the landing pad kicks in. What happens at this point here, the moment you get to this point, your forward vector, velocity vector, gets mixed with the gravity pulling you down vector. And what happens then, if you will really simplify what's happening here is in the moment the gravity gets mixed, you get pulled down but still get pulled forward. And the more forward speed you have, the more shallow this is going to be, and the more further away your impact point is going to be on the landing pad. And I think it's a matter of player skill. You just practice when you come in on the 1G pad, at which speed you come in, depending on your ship and forward vector, how much you get pulled down. And with a bit of practice, you can basically time your landing to be exactly where you want it on the pad. So I don't think that would actually have required to fix the coupled mode gets activated into the decoupled mode when you have your gear out. It just takes a bit of practice to figure out the right moment and the right velocity to drop on the pad. Now let's talk about the problem with taking off at 1G into a 0G environment. Okay, here's the pointer. This is your pad. Now if you take off with a HOTAS stick, if the flight path would be like this, you basically start hovering gently, you start building up some altitude. And the way I do it, I give it some forward tilt on my ship, and then it starts drifting forward, and then you switch to forward flight, and you basically fly out of the 1G into space. And that's the boundary of the 1G space. But the problem is, if you don't have a HOTAS stick, it's gonna look a bit different. You're gonna fly up. Okay, the blue thing is now without a HOTAS stick. That's with keyboard. Like if you have W and S or any other key for strafe up, strafe down, you start strafing up. Then as you drift forward, the problem is you can only there's no way to adjust the rate at how much upstrafe you wanna give the ship when you press it. So it's gonna look like this. You're gonna fly a bit too high, then let go of your key. You start drifting down again, then you press it again. Then you start drifting down again, you press it again, and so forth. And it's called like that's like a flappy bird flying basically. The problem from that is because you don't have any way to tell the game when you press W how fast you want to press the upstrafe, and you have no way to keep it at a certain level because you have to constantly press W at maximum full speed and balance it with S against, again, full speed the other direction. So it's almost impossible to get a stable hover out of that. So how do we fix that? What would be good if the game would have like a virtual throttle lever. The way it works would be like this. Okay, you got the W key. 0. 100% plus, and here is your minus 100%. Now the way it works on a joystick, on an analog, let's say a throttle lever you got, I'm gonna do black again for joystick. You push the lever up to a certain level and you let go, then it remains on that point until you push the lever again and push it back, which means you can, let's say you need 54% to get into stable hover in 1G with a specific ship. And if you start flying forward, you actually might only need 52.3%. That's much easier to approximate if you have a lever that you can control in a small range, like where it should be, which means it might be in a small range between this and that to get a stable hull where you can fly around without losing much altitude. Now, if you want to get that done with WS, you need a virtual system where you can press W or any other key, and the game would then start building up the rate until you let go, and then it would remain at that particular point, say over here. Until you press S again, it would start pushing the thing down. And the second thing it would need would be like a rate adjustment, which means if you press W, currently you press W, it presses it with maximum force as fast as it can. Like if you're driving a car and you press a pedal, you only have the option to basically slam it down completely to the metal. If you have a rate adjustment, so if you press W, it doesn't instantly give it all the force, maybe it just gives it only, let's say, 5% of force per second. Then it would slowly creep up, and as you let go, it would stay there, and you press S, it would slowly go down at the same rate. And then again, you could use your keyboard to stay within that range where you can safely hover around. And I think those two things would completely fix the problem with the 1G pad. I also think it would be certainly a better fix than the current 3.11 R fix, where coupled mode is basically forced to be decoupled if your gears are